The emergency beacon cut through the void of space like a scream in the darkness. Captain HFY of the Corvanian research vessel Stellar Wind watched the distress signal pulse on his scanner with growing desperation. 3 standard cycles had passed since their hyperdrive had catastrophically failed, leaving them stranded in the emptiness between star systems. "Status report," HFY commanded, his forearms working frantically across the control interface. His chitinous exoskeleton clicked against the metal console as stress pheromones filled the bridge atmosphere. "Life support is down to 18%, reported his science officer. Dr. Veltara, her antennae twitching nervously. "The backup fusion core is barely maintaining minimal power. We have perhaps 2 cycles before complete system failure." The bridge fell silent except for the steady beeping of the distress beacon. HFY looked around at his crew of 12, all Corvanians like himself, their compound eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting. They had been conducting a routine survey of mineral-rich asteroids when space itself seemed to tear around them. The hyperdrive explosion had not only stranded them but also damaged their quantum communicator, making contact with Corvanian space impossible. "Sir," called out Navigator Thexmore from his station, "I'm detecting something unusual. There's a ship approaching our position." Every head on the bridge turned toward the main view screen as Thexmore enhanced the image. In the distance, a sleek vessel emerged from the cosmic darkness, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. The ship was unlike anything in the Corvanian database. Smooth curves where Corvanian ships favored angular efficiency, and strange markings along its side that seemed almost artistic rather than functional. "Unknown vessel. This is Captain HFY of the Corvanian research ship Stellar Wind," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We are experiencing critical system failures and request immediate assistance. Our life support is failing, and we have limited time remaining." Static crackled through the communications array for long moments. Then unexpectedly a response came through. Not in the clicking, chittering language of the Corvanians, but in something else entirely. The universal translator struggled with the alien syntax before finally producing recognizable words. "Corvanian vessel. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Alliance ship Midnight Runner. We've received your distress signal and are moving to assist. Prepare for docking procedures." The bridge erupted in surprised chatter. Earth Alliance? None of the crew had heard of such a faction. The galactic database contained no reference to any species called Earth, or any alliance bearing that name. Yet here was salvation approaching from the void. "Captain," Dr. Veltara whispered urgently, "our scanners are reading their ship composition as unknown alloys. The energy signatures don't match any known technology in our databases. These beings, we know nothing about them." HFY considered this information carefully. His people, the Corvanians, were one of the 3 major spacefaring civilizations in this sector of the galaxy, along with the telepathic Sileth and the warrior merchant Braxians. All 3 species had encountered each other centuries ago and established complex relationships of trade, territorial disputes, and uneasy peace. But this Earth Alliance was completely unknown. "Sir, they're requesting permission to dock," reported Communications Officer Nexalua. "They say they have medical supplies and repair equipment that might help us." The alien ship grew larger on the view screen as it approached. HFY could see details now. It was roughly the same size as the Stellar Wind, but its design suggested different priorities. Where Corvanian ships were built for efficiency and resource extraction, this vessel seemed designed for exploration and long-range travel. Strange pod-like structures along its hull suggested rescue equipment, and the ship moved with a grace that spoke of advanced maneuvering systems. "Grant them docking permission," HFY decided, "but maintain security protocols. We don't know their intentions." As the Midnight Runner began its careful approach to their docking port, Dr. Veltara pulled up what little data their sensors could gather about the mysterious aliens aboard the rescue ship. "Captain, I'm reading approximately 30 life signs aboard their vessel," she reported. "The beings appear to be bipedal, roughly half our size, with some kind of internal skeletal structure rather than an exoskeleton. Their ship's atmosphere is mostly nitrogen and oxygen, unusual but not unbreathable with our emergency masks." HFY nodded grimly. The Corvanians breathed a similar mixture, though with higher methane content. Basic atmospheric compatibility was promising. but he remained cautious about these unknown aliens and their motivations for helping. The docking process completed with mechanical precision, and soon the soft hiss of atmospheric equalization echoed through the ship. HFY made his way to the docking bay, accompanied by 2 security officers and Dr. Veltara. Whatever these creatures wanted, whatever their price for rescue might be, he would face it with dignity befitting a Corvanian captain. The airlock cycled open, and HFY got his first glimpse of humanity. They were indeed smaller than Corvanians, but they moved with surprising confidence for their size. The leading figure removed her helmet to reveal a face unlike anything in HFY's experience. Smooth skin instead of chitin, small simple eyes instead of compound ones, and strange hair-like filaments covering the top of her head. Yet, despite their alien appearance, there was something in their bearing that spoke of competence and genuine concern. "Captain HFY?" the leading human asked, her voice carrying clearly through the communication device. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen. We came as soon as we detected your distress signal." "Captain Chen," HFY replied formally. "We are grateful for your response, though I must admit we are unfamiliar with your species or your Earth alliance." "Captain." Chen smiled, an expression that the translator somehow conveyed as friendly despite HFY having no cultural reference for it. That's not surprising. Humans only recently developed faster-than-light travel. We're still pretty new to this part of the galaxy. But when someone's in trouble, we help. It's just what we do. Behind Captain Chen, other humans were already unloading equipment from their ship. HFY watched in amazement as they began setting up what appeared to be sophisticated repair and medical equipment, working with an efficiency that rivaled his own crew despite having never seen Corvanian technology before. "Just what we do," HFY repeated thoughtfully, watching these strange new aliens work to save his ship and crew without asking for anything in return. In his experience, rescue in space always came with a price: resources, information, political favors. Yet these humans seemed to be helping simply because help was needed. Perhaps HFY thought as he watched the humans work, the galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. Dr. James Rodriguez emerged from the Corvanian engine compartment, wiping his hands on a cloth, his face streaked with the strange blue coolant that leaked from their damaged hyperdrive. Behind him, 2 other human engineers continued working alongside the Corvanian crew, their universal translators buzzing with technical discussions that seemed to transcend species barriers. "Well, Captain," Rodriguez called out to Sarah Chen, "it's worse than we thought, but not hopeless. Their hyperdrive matrix is completely fried. Looks like they hit some kind of subspace anomaly. But the interesting thing is, their technology is incredibly sophisticated, way more advanced than ours in some areas." HFY watched this exchange with growing fascination. In the past several hours, he had observed something unprecedented in his experience with galactic politics. The humans had immediately begun repairs without negotiating payment, territory, or technological exchange. They simply worked, sharing their tools and expertise freely. "Their fusion core design is brilliant," continued Dr. Rodriguez, addressing both captains. "Much more efficient than our reactors. Captain HFY, would you mind if we studied it? We might be able to improve our own designs." The Corvanian captain's antennae twitched in surprise. "You wish to study our technology, but you are already providing assistance. Surely any technological exchange should flow in the opposite direction." Captain Chen exchanged glances with her chief engineer. "We don't see it that way. Knowledge benefits everyone when it's shared. If we can learn from each other, both our peoples become stronger." Dr. Veltara, who had been monitoring the human medical team treating 3 injured Corvanian crew members, approached with visible excitement.
"Captain HFY, you must see this."
Their medical knowledge is extraordinary. She led them to the medical bay where Dr. Lisa Park, the human chief medical officer, was working on Navigator Thexmore's injured arm. The Corvanian had suffered severe plasma burns during the hyperdrive explosion, and traditional Corvanian medicine had been unable to fully heal the damage. "The cellular regeneration techniques they're using," Dr. Veltara whispered in amazement, "they're decades ahead of our medical science. But Dr. Park is teaching me the procedures as she works." Dr. Park looked up from her patient with a warm smile. "Thexmore here was telling me about Corvanian anatomy. Your people heal differently than we do, but the principles are similar enough that we can adapt our techniques. He should have full use of his arm again within a few days." Zexhi watched as Dr. Park demonstrated the regeneration device to Dr. Veltara, explaining each step clearly and answering every question with patience. This was not how first contact typically proceeded. In his experience, new civilizations jealously guarded their technological advantages, using them as leverage in negotiations. Captain Chen, Zexhi said quietly, drawing the human leader aside, I must ask directly, what do your people want in exchange for this assistance? In my experience, such generosity always comes with a price. Sarah Chen paused in reviewing repair reports and studied the Corvanian captain thoughtfully. I understand your confusion. From what we've learned about this region of space, the major powers here tend to view everything as a transaction. But humans, we have a different philosophy. She gestured toward her crew, who were working seamlessly alongside the Corvanians throughout the ship. About 300 years ago, my people went through what we call the Great Isolation. We nearly destroyed ourselves with wars and environmental damage. When we finally learned to work together, we developed what we now call the Unity Principle. The Unity Principle? Zexhi asked, genuinely curious. Every sapient being has inherent worth and dignity, Chen explained. When someone needs help, you help them if you can. Not because you expect something in return, but because it's the right thing to do. Strength comes from cooperation, not exploitation. This concept was so foreign to galactic politics that Zexhi struggled to process it. But surely your government expects some benefit from these interactions? Resources? Territory? Strategic advantage? Captain Chen shook her head. The Earth Alliance governs by consent of the governed. We're explorers and scientists primarily, not conquerors. Our strength comes from the voluntary cooperation of member worlds, not forced submission. Before Zexhi could respond, Chief Engineer Rodriguez called out with excitement. Captains, you need to see this. We figured out how to fix the hyperdrive. They hurried to the engine compartment where Rodriguez and Chief Engineer Colvex were standing over a complex holographic display. The human engineer was practically bouncing with enthusiasm. The Corvanian hyperdrive uses a completely different approach than ours, Rodriguez explained. They manipulate subspace directly rather than riding the natural currents like we do. It's much more efficient but also more complex. When they hit that anomaly, it created a feedback loop that burned out their navigational matrix. But combining our approaches, Colvex added, his excitement evident in his rapid antenna movements, we can create a hybrid solution. The human hyperdrive components can provide navigation, while our core provides the power. Dr. Veltara looked up from a medical scanner she was studying. Captain, the collaboration extends beyond engineering. The humans have shared complete medical databases with us. Techniques for treating 17 different species, including several we've never encountered. Zexhi felt a growing sense of unease, not from fear, but from the complete overthrow of his understanding of galactic politics.
Captain Chen, this level of technological sharing...
Your superiors will approve of this? Not only approve, but encourage, Chen replied. Our directives are clear. Render aid to those in need, establish peaceful contact with new civilizations, and share knowledge for the benefit of all. My crew and I have full authority to act on these principles. Communications Officer Nexalua approached with a puzzled expression. Captain Zexhi, I've been analyzing the human communication systems. They've been continuously broadcasting our location and status to what appears to be a network of human ships throughout this sector. They're calling for additional assistance. This revelation sent another shock through Zexhi's understanding. Not only were the humans helping freely, they were actively recruiting more help without being asked. Standard procedure, Captain Chen explained casually. Any rescue operation gets full network support. There are probably 3 more human ships changing course to assist us right now. But why? Zexhi asked, his voice carrying genuine bewilderment. You don't know us. We could be enemies. We could represent a threat to your people. Captain Chen's expression grew serious. Because every life has value, Captain. Every civilization has something unique to contribute to the galaxy. The Corvanians have already taught us new approaches to energy generation and medical treatment that will benefit millions of humans. But more than that, meeting your people expands our understanding of what's possible in the universe. She paused, looking around at the mixed human-Corvanian work teams laboring throughout the ship. Besides, anyone willing to risk their lives exploring the unknown, seeking knowledge and understanding. Those are the kinds of people we want as friends, not enemies. As if to punctuate her words, the ship's communications array crackled to life. Corvanian vessel Stellar Wind. This is Captain Martinez of the Aurora. We're 3 hours out with additional repair supplies and medical equipment. Hang tight, help is coming. Zexhai stared at the communication display, then at Captain Chen, then at his own crew working alongside the humans as if they had been friends for years rather than strangers for hours. In all his years of exploring space, in all his encounters with the established galactic powers, he had never witnessed anything like this display of selfless cooperation. For the first time since the hyperdrive explosion, Zexhai allowed himself to hope that this encounter might lead to something far more valuable than mere survival. The arrival of the second human ship, Aurora, transformed what had been a rescue operation into something Zexhai could only describe as a celebration of cooperation. Captain Elena Martinez brought not only additional supplies and personnel, but also a completely different perspective on human capabilities. Where Captain Chen's Midnight Runner was clearly a deep space explorer, the Aurora was obviously a specialized rescue and recovery vessel. Its hull bristled with emergency equipment, mobile workshops, and what appeared to be a complete field hospital. But what struck Zexhai most forcefully was how the crews of both ships worked together as if they had been training for this exact scenario their entire lives. Captain Zexhai, Captain Martinez said as she toured the ongoing repairs, "We've brought some equipment that might interest you. Our fabrication units can manufacture replacement components for your navigation systems using raw materials from the local asteroid field." Dr. Veltara's antennae nearly vibrated off her head with excitement. "They can fabricate quantum resonance crystals?" She whispered to Zexhai. "Those take our best facilities months to grow." "Actually," Chief Fabrication Specialist Williams overheard, "we'd like to learn your crystal growing techniques. Our method is fast but crude compared to what we've seen in your database. Maybe we can combine approaches, fast fabrication for emergencies, slow growth for optimal performance." This pattern had repeated dozens of times over the past day. The humans would demonstrate some remarkable capability, then immediately express interest in learning the Corvanian equivalent, often discovering that the Corvanian approach offered advantages their own technology lacked. "Sir," Navigator Thexmore called out, his recently healed arm working smoothly at his station, "we're receiving a communication from Corvanian space. The relay network has finally detected our distress signal." Zexhai's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Put it through." The holographic display shimmered and resolved into the stern visage of Admiral Kexthun, one of the highest-ranking military officers in the Corvanian Defense Fleet. His compound eyes surveyed the bridge, taking in the presence of the unknown humans with obvious suspicion. "Captain Zexhai, we received your automated distress beacon. What is your status? And who are these unidentified aliens?" "Admiral, we suffered hyperdrive failure and were stranded in deep space. These are humans from the Earth Alliance. They responded to our distress call and have been providing assistance." Admiral Kexithun's antennae flattened against his skull, a sign of aggressive skepticism. "Humans? There is no record of any such species in our databases. What are their terms for assistance? What intelligence have you shared with them?" Zexhai felt a complex mix of embarrassment and loyalty as he glanced at Captain Chen, who was politely pretending not to listen while reviewing repair schedules with her crew. "Sir, they have asked for no payment and have shared their technology freely with us. Their only request has been to learn from our systems in return." "Impossible," the Admiral declared flatly. "No species provides assistance without expecting compensation." "What is their true agenda, Captain?" Before Zexhai could respond, Dr. Rodriguez emerged from the engine compartment with Chief Engineer Kolvex, both of them covered in the same blue coolant, but grinning with satisfaction. "Captains," Rodriguez called out, "we've got the hybrid hyperdrive online. The integration of human navigation systems with Corvanian power generation is working perfectly. We're ready for a test jump whenever you are." Admiral Kexithun's image focused sharply on the human engineer. "You have integrated their technology with our hyperdrive systems?" "Captain Zexhai, this is a severe breach of security protocols." Captain Chen stepped forward diplomatically. "Admiral, I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Alliance. Perhaps I can address your concerns directly." "You will address me as Admiral Kexthun," the Corvanian military leader replied stiffly. "What are your people's intentions regarding Corvanian territory and technology?" We have no territorial ambitions in this region, Chen replied calmly. We're explorers and scientists. Our mission is to seek out new civilizations, establish peaceful contact, and share knowledge for the mutual benefit of all sapient species. A convenient claim, Admiral Kexton replied skeptically. What military capabilities do your ships possess? Captain Martinez chose that moment to join the conversation. Admiral, our ships are equipped for rescue and exploration, not conquest. We carry defensive systems only, and our crews are trained primarily in emergency response, medical aid, and scientific research. The Admiral's expression grew more suspicious. You claim to have no military ambitions, yet you appear in an uncharted region of space with advanced technology. How do we know you are not advanced scouts for an invasion force? Dr. Veltara stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic protocol. Admiral, with respect, I have spent the past day studying human technology and methods. Their medical advances alone could revolutionize healthcare for our people. They have freely shared information that our own research facilities have been trying to develop for decades. And they have learned our techniques in return, Admiral Kexton pointed out darkly. Yes, sir, Dr. Veltara agreed. But observe the nature of what they have chosen to study. Medical techniques that save lives, engineering approaches that improve efficiency and safety, agricultural methods that could help feed hungry populations. They have shown no interest in our weapons systems or military strategies. Captain Chen nodded thoughtfully. Admiral, would it help if we arranged a formal meeting between our diplomatic corps and your government? We'd be happy to provide full technical specifications for our ships and complete information about the Earth Alliance. You would share intelligence about your military capabilities? Admiral Kexthun asked, clearly taken aback. We'd share information about our defensive capabilities, yes, Captain Martinez replied. We don't really have offensive military capabilities to speak of. The Earth Alliance maintains a policy of defensive sufficiency rather than power projection. This concept seemed to confuse the Admiral even more than the offer of free assistance had confused Zexhai. In a galaxy where the three major powers maintained uneasy peace through carefully balanced military strength, the idea of deliberately limiting one's own offensive capabilities was almost incomprehensible. Sir, Communications Officer Nexalua interrupted, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching our position. The signatures are unusual. Human reinforcements? Admiral Kexton demanded. Actually, Captain Chen checked her own displays. Those aren't ours. The signatures don't match Earth Alliance configurations. Captain Martinez frowned at her scanner readings. Whatever they are, they're moving fast and they're heavily armed. Energy signatures suggest military vessels. Zexhai felt his stomach sink as he recognized the approaching ship configurations. Braxian warcruisers, 3 of them closing on our position. The Braxians? Admiral Kexthun's image leaned forward. What would they want with a disabled research vessel? Dr. Veltara's voice was grim as she consulted the tactical displays. The same thing they always want, Admiral. They've detected unknown technology and they intend to claim it for themselves. Captain Chen looked puzzled. I'm not familiar with the Braxians. Are they hostile? Very, Zexhai replied grimly. They're a warrior merchant culture that believes in taking whatever they can claim by force. They must have detected the unusual energy signatures from our hybrid hyperdrive and decided to investigate. Well, Captain Martinez said with surprising calmness, I guess we're about to find out what happens when Braxian aggression meets human problem-solving. Admiral Kexthun's expression had shifted from suspicion to calculation. Captain Zexhai, can your ship jump to safety? The hyperdrive is operational, Chief Engineer Kolvex confirmed, but the humans' ships won't abandon a disabled vessel, Captain Chen finished firmly. We'll figure this out together. As the Braxian ships closed in, Zexhai realized he was about to witness something unprecedented in galactic politics. Humans facing their first contact with a hostile alien species. He only hoped the encounter would not end humanity's remarkable streak of peaceful cooperation before it had truly begun. The Braxian warcruisers dropped out of hyperspace in a formation that spoke of military precision and aggressive intent. Their ships were massive angular vessels designed to intimidate as much as to fight, bristling with weapon ports and armored plating that gleamed menacingly under the starlight. Unidentified vessels, came the harsh, guttural voice of the lead Braxian commander. You are trespassing in territory claimed by the Braxian hegemony. Surrender your ships and technology for inspection or face the consequences. Captain Chen looked at Captain Martinez with raised eyebrows. Well, that was direct. Sir, Dr. Veltara whispered urgently to Zexhai. The Braxians are notorious for salvaging any technology they can claim. If they discover the hybrid hyperdrive, they'll either steal it or destroy it to prevent others from having it, Zexhai finished grimly. Admiral Kexthun, the Braxians have made territorial claims on this sector before but never enforced them. This appears to be an opportunistic raid. On the communication display, Admiral Kexthun's expression had shifted to one of cold military calculation. Captain Zexhai, the nearest Corvanian fleet is 6 days away. You are on your own. Captain Chen stepped forward calmly. Admiral Captain Zexhai, may I address the Braxians? Perhaps we can resolve this diplomatically. Captain, Zexhai said urgently. The Braxians do not negotiate from positions of weakness. They respect only strength. Understood, Chen replied, then activated the communication array. Braxian vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Alliance ship Midnight Runner. We are conducting a rescue operation for a disabled vessel. We have no territorial claims in this region and request safe passage. The response was immediate and predictably hostile. Earth Alliance? Unknown faction. Your technology and vessels are now forfeit to the Braxian hegemony. Prepare to be boarded or be destroyed. Captain Martinez checked her tactical displays. Sarah, their ships significantly outgun us. Conventional tactics won't work here. Then we don't use conventional tactics, Chen replied with a slight smile. Human ingenuity has gotten us this far. She turned to the mixed human Corvanian crew working throughout the ship. All right, everyone, we have a problem that needs solving. The Braxians want our technology, but we need to protect our Corvanian friends and complete the rescue operation. Ideas? What followed was something Zexhai had never witnessed in decades of space travel. A completely democratic tactical planning session. Humans and Corvanians alike began offering suggestions, building on each other's ideas. Regardless of rank or species, the Braxians are expecting either submission or a conventional fight, observed Dr. Rodriguez. What? If we give them something completely unexpected? Their ships are heavily armored but designed for direct confrontation, added Chief Engineer Kolvex. The weapon placement suggests they're optimized for fighting similar vessels. Dr. Park looked up from her medical station. What about their psychology? How do Braxians typically respond to situations they don't understand? Dr. Veltara's antennae twitched thoughtfully. They become cautious when faced with unknown variables. It's one reason they've survived as long as they have despite their aggressive nature. So we give them unknown variables, Captain Chen mused. Lots of them. Navigator Thexmore, his recently healed arm working smoothly at his controls, called out, Captain Chen, I'm reading some unusual gravitational anomalies in this system. The same type that damaged our hyperdrive initially. Can we use those? Captain Martinez asked. Possibly, Chief Engineer Williams from the Aurora replied. If we can map the anomalies precisely, we could lead the Braxians into a trap, finished Rodriguez excitedly. Not a violent one, but something that disables their ships without harming the crews. Admiral Kexathun's image leaned forward with interest. You would attempt to disable 3 Braxian war cruisers without firing a shot? That's the idea, Captain Chen confirmed. Dr. Veltara, can your sensors map the gravitational distortions precisely enough for navigation? With the hybrid sensor array we've developed, yes, the Corvanian scientist replied eagerly. But the Braxian sensors are crude compared to ours. They wouldn't detect the anomalies until too late. That feels like cheating, Dr. Park observed with a grin. Sometimes the best solution is the one nobody expects, Captain Martinez replied. Let's do it. The plan that emerged over the next 30 minutes was audacious in its simplicity. The human ships would appear to flee, leading the Braxians on a chase through the gravitational anomalies. The stellar wind, with its repaired hybrid drive, would emerge behind the disabled Braxian ships and offer assistance rather than pressing any advantage. The Braxians will be completely confused, Zexhai observed with growing admiration. In their culture, showing mercy to enemies is a sign of either weakness or hidden strength. They won't know how to interpret the gesture. That's the point, Captain Chen replied. Sometimes the best way to win is to change the game entirely. As the human ships began their apparent retreat, the Braxian war cruisers took the bait exactly as predicted. Their aggressive pursuit led them directly into a cluster of gravitational anomalies that played havoc with their navigation systems and left all 3 ships adrift and powerless. Braxian vessels. Captain Chen broadcast calmly. "This is Captain Chen. We're transmitting the navigational data to help you avoid the gravitational distortions. Do you require assistance with repairs?" The silence that followed was deafening. When the Braxian commander finally responded, his voice carried a mixture of confusion and grudging respect that Zexhai had never heard from his species before. "Human vessel. Why do you offer aid to those who threatened you?" "Because you're stranded and need help," Captain Chen replied simply. "It's what we do." Admiral Kexthun's image showed barely concealed amazement. "Captain Chen, you have just accomplished something unprecedented. The Braxians have never been defeated without bloodshed, and never offered assistance by their enemies." "They're not our enemies," Captain Martinez corrected. "They're just people we haven't become friends with yet." Over the next several hours, human and Corvanian technical teams worked alongside confused but increasingly cooperative Braxian engineers to repair the damaged war cruisers. The Braxian crews, bred for warfare and conquest, found themselves completely out of their depth when faced with genuine offers of assistance and technological cooperation. Commander Groktar of the lead Braxian vessel eventually asked to speak privately with Captain Chen. "Human captain, I do not understand your actions. You had us helpless, yet you ate us. In Braxian culture, this makes no sense." "In human culture," Chen replied gently, "strength comes from cooperation, not domination. The universe is vast and dangerous enough without us fighting each other. But what do you gain from helping us?" Groktar pressed. "Hopefully," Chen smiled, "new friends who understand that there are better ways to resolve conflicts than violence." As the Braxian ships prepared to depart with fully functional systems and complete technical readouts of the gravitational anomalies that had trapped them, Commander Groktar made a formal declaration that would be remembered in galactic history. The Braxian hegemony withdraws all territorial claims from this sector. These humans fight like no warriors we have ever encountered. It would be unwise to make enemies of such people. Zexhai watched the Braxian ships jump away and realized that he had just witnessed something that would change the balance of power in this region of the galaxy forever. The humans hadn't just rescued his ship. They had introduced an entirely new paradigm of interstellar relations. And this, he suspected, was only the beginning. 3 weeks after the incident with the Braxians, Zexhai found himself aboard the human diplomatic vessel Harmony, en route to the Corvanian homeworld of Kethvar. The ship itself was a marvel of human engineering philosophy, where military vessels were designed for destruction and merchant ships for profit. The Harmony was built purely for bringing people together. Ambassador Lisa Okafor, the senior human diplomat, had spent the journey learning Corvanian history, culture, and political structure with an intensity that amazed Zexhai. She approached diplomacy the same way her people approached rescue operations, with thorough preparation, genuine concern for all parties, and an unwavering belief that problems could be solved through cooperation. "Captain Zexhai," Ambassador Okafor said as they reviewed the upcoming formal contact protocols, "I want to make sure we understand Corvanian customs correctly. Dr. Veltara has been incredibly helpful, but I want to avoid any accidental insults during the first official meeting." Dr. Veltara, who had volunteered to serve as cultural liaison, clicked her mandibles in what humans had learned was the Corvanian equivalent of laughter. "Ambassador, after watching how your people handle unknown situations, I doubt you could accidentally insult anyone. You adapt faster than any species I've encountered." The approach to Kethvar provided a stunning view of Corvanian civilization. The planet's surface was dotted with gleaming spires that reached toward the clouds, connected by transport tubes that carried goods and people in efficient streams. Orbital habitats surrounded the world like a jeweled necklace, housing the research facilities and manufacturing centers that made Corvanian technology so advanced. "Incoming message from Kethvar Traffic Control," announced the communications officer. "They're directing us to the diplomatic landing facility." As the Harmony descended through the atmosphere, Zexhai felt a complex mixture of pride and nervousness. He was bringing representatives of a completely unknown species to his homeworld, beings who had already demonstrated capabilities that challenged fundamental assumptions. About galactic politics, the landing ceremony was elaborate by human standards but relatively modest by Corvanian ones. The ruling council had clearly decided to treat this as a significant but not overwhelming event. Admiral Kexthun was present, along with several other military leaders, but the majority of the welcoming committee consisted of scientists, engineers, and civilian administrators. Ambassador Okafor greeted Prime Administrator Yexaklan, the elected leader of the Corvanian government. Welcome to Kethvar. Captain Zexhai has provided fascinating reports about your people's capabilities. Prime Administrator. Ambassador Okafor replied with a formal bow that she had practiced extensively. The Earth Alliance is honored to establish formal contact with the Corvanian Republic. We bring greetings from humanity and hopes for a lasting friendship between our peoples. The formal ceremonies proceeded smoothly, but Zexhai could see that the real interest lay in the technical demonstrations that followed. Human and Corvanian scientists had prepared joint presentations showcasing the collaborative work that had emerged from the rescue operation. Dr. Rodriguez and Chief Engineer Colvex presented their hybrid hyperdrive design to an audience of Corvanian engineers who peppered them with technical questions. The enthusiasm was infectious. Within hours, 3 separate research teams had volunteered to participate in joint development projects. Dr. Park's medical collaboration with Dr. Veltara drew similar interest from the Corvanian Medical Council. The regenerative techniques that had healed Navigator Thexmore's arm were demonstrated on willing volunteers, producing results that had the medical establishment buzzing with excitement. But it was Ambassador Okafor's presentation on human political philosophy that truly captured the attention of the ruling council. The Earth Alliance operates on what we call the cooperative sovereignty principle, she explained to the assembled leaders. Each member world maintains complete autonomy over its internal affairs, but agrees to cooperate on matters of mutual interest, exploration, scientific research, mutual defense, and humanitarian aid. And this system works? Asked Administrator Nexquan, the head of the Corvanian Department of External Affairs. You have no central authority enforcing compliance? None, Ambassador Okafor confirmed. Cooperation is voluntary and maintained through mutual benefit. When every party gains more from cooperation than they lose from autonomy, the system sustains itself. Admiral Kexathon leaned forward skeptically. What happens when member worlds disagree on fundamental issues? We talk until we find a solution that works for everyone, replied the ambassador simply. It takes longer than imposed solutions, but the results tend to be more durable and more just. Prime Administrator Yexklin's antennae twitched thoughtfully. This approach requires a level of trust that is unusual in galactic politics. Trust has to start somewhere, Ambassador Okafor agreed. We've found that when you treat people as trustworthy, they tend to live up to that expectation. Over the following days, human-Corvanian cooperation expanded rapidly. Joint research projects were established in 12 different fields. Cultural exchange programs were organized. Trade agreements were negotiated on principles of mutual benefit rather than competitive advantage. But the most significant development came when Dr. Veltara made an unexpected announcement during a joint scientific symposium. Based on our collaboration with human researchers, she declared to the assembled scientists, we have achieved a breakthrough in quantum communication technology. Using hybrid human-Corvanian approaches, we can now maintain instantaneous communication across galactic distances. The implications hit Zexhai immediately. Instantaneous communication would revolutionize everything: trade, diplomacy, scientific collaboration, emergency response. It was the kind of breakthrough that typically gave one species overwhelming advantages over others. Dr. Veltara, Admiral Kexthun asked carefully, what are the restrictions on this technology? None, Dr. Veltara replied cheerfully. The humans have agreed to share the technology freely with any species that agrees to use it for peaceful purposes. The stunned silence that followed was broken by Prime Administrator Yexklan. They're willing to share technology that could transform galactic civilization? Ambassador Okafor smiled. Prime Administrator, we've learned that the best way to ensure our own security and prosperity is to help others achieve security and prosperity. A galaxy where everyone is doing well is a galaxy where everyone is safer. Admiral Kexthun stood slowly, his expression thoughtful. Ambassador, 3 weeks ago I suspected your people of having hidden military ambitions. Now I begin to understand that your true weapon is not technology or firepower, but the ability to make everyone around you stronger and more capable. We prefer to think of it as making friends, Ambassador Okafor replied. That evening, as Zexhai walked through the gardens of the Corvanian capital with Ambassador Okafor and Dr. Veltara, he reflected on how rapidly everything had changed. The rescue of his ship had led to the most significant shift in galactic politics in centuries. Ambassador, he said thoughtfully, do you realize what you've accomplished here? In less than a month, you've neutralized Braxian aggression, established formal relations with the Corvanian Republic, and introduced technologies that will benefit the entire galaxy. We've made some friends and helped solve some problems, Ambassador Okafor replied modestly. It's what humans do. Dr. Veltara's antennae twitched with amusement. Captain Zexhai, I believe you're beginning to understand what makes humans so remarkable. They don't see what they do as remarkable at all. As they walked under the light of Kethvar's 3 moons, Zexhai realized that the emergency beacon that had started all of this had done more than just call for rescue. It had called forth a species that would reshape how the galaxy thought about cooperation, conflict, and the possibilities of peace. And according to the latest reports from human space, this was just the beginning. Humanity was expanding rapidly, and everywhere they went, they left behind the same pattern: former enemies becoming friends, isolated problems becoming shared solutions, and impossible situations becoming opportunities for innovation. The galaxy, Zexhai thought with satisfaction, was about to become a much more interesting and hopeful place. 6 months after first contact, the Galactic Cooperation Summit was being held aboard the massive human space station Unity. The station itself was a testament to human engineering philosophy. Instead of being built for defense or production, it was designed purely for bringing different species together in comfort and safety. Zexhai, now serving as the Corvanian ambassador to the Earth Alliance, watched in amazement as delegates from 17 different species mingled in the station's central plaza. The sight would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. Braxians sharing technical data with Sealeth telepaths, Corvanian scientists collaborating with species they had never heard of before humanity arrived, and humans facilitating discussions between civilizations that had been enemies for centuries. Quite a gathering, observed Commander Groktar, the former Braxian raider who now served as his people's Minister of Cooperative Development. The massive warrior had undergone a remarkable transformation since his encounter with human problem-solving methods. The humans make it look easy, replied Tashandra, the crystalline delegate from the Zephyrian Collective. Her translated voice carried notes of wonder as she gestured toward the diverse crowds with her articulated crystal appendages. 6 months ago, my people had never encountered any species besides the Syleth. Now we're participating in joint research projects with 8 different civilizations. Dr. Veltara, now the head of the Interspecies Medical Research Institute, approached the group with evident excitement. Ambassadors, you must see the latest developments. The medical collaboration between our species has produced something extraordinary. She led them to a presentation area where Dr. Lisa Park was demonstrating the results of the Collaborative Medical Research Initiative. On the display screen, complex genetic and biological data scrolled past, but what caught everyone's attention were the practical results. Using combined Corvanian regenerative techniques, human adaptive medicine, Syleth mental health therapies, and Zephyrian crystalline healing methods, Dr. Park announced, we've developed treatment protocols that work across species barriers. For the first time, we can provide medical care to any known sapient species regardless of their biological base. The implications were staggering. Before human involvement, each species had developed medical techniques suited only to their own biology. Cross-species medical care had been impossible except in the most basic ways. Now suddenly, injury or illness wasn't a barrier to exploring or working in foreign environments. This is just the beginning, Dr. Veltara added enthusiastically. The psychological techniques the Syleth have shared, combined with human stress management and Braxian endurance training, have produced performance enhancement methods that benefit all our species. Ambassador Okafor joined the group, looking pleasantly tired in the way of someone who had been solving interesting problems all day. Ambassadors, how are you finding the summit? Educational, rumbled Groktar with something that might have been humor. My people are learning that there are many kinds of strength. The warriors back home barely recognize the reports I send them. Speaking of reports, Zexai mentioned, I've been reviewing the economic data from the new trade networks. The efficiency improvements are remarkable. Tishandra's crystalline form chimed with agreement. When species share technology freely instead of hoarding it, everyone benefits. The Zephyrian Collective has seen a 300% increase in technological development since joining the cooperation network. And the conflict resolution rates, added Veltara. Border disputes, resource conflicts, territorial disagreements, they're being resolved in weeks instead of decades. Ambassador Okafor smiled. It turns out that most conflicts are based on misunderstandings or resource scarcity. When you have better communication and more efficient resource utilization, the reasons for fighting tend to disappear. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent announcement from the station's central communications array. All ambassadors to the emergency session center. We have an incoming distress signal from an unknown source. As the delegates hurried to the emergency center, Zexai felt a familiar mix of excitement and concern. Unknown distress signals had started this entire transformation. What would this one bring? The emergency center was buzzing with activity as communication specialists worked to decode the signal. Captain Sarah Chen, now serving as the Director of Emergency Response, was coordinating the effort with her characteristic calm efficiency. What do we know? Ambassador Okafor asked as she arrived. Long-range sensors picked up a distress signal from approximately 40 light-years away, Captain Chen reported. The signal is on emergency frequencies, but the technology is completely unknown, not matching any database we have for any of our member species. Another first contact situation? Grokter asked. Looks like it, Chen confirmed. But there are complications. The signal originated from a region of space that's been marked as highly dangerous by both Corvanian and Braxian scouts. High radiation levels, unstable stellar phenomena, and reports of ships that went missing while exploring the area. Dr. Veltara examined the sensor data thoughtfully. The signal characteristics suggest a species with crystalline-based technology, but much more advanced than the Zephyrians. The energy output required to broadcast across 40 light-years through that much interference is enormous. Could it be a trap? Asked Tishandra, her crystal formation flickering with concern. It's possible, Admiral Martinez, now the head of Cooperative Defense, admitted. But the signal degradation patterns suggest genuine distress. Whatever sent this message is either in serious trouble or very good at faking it. Ambassador Okafor looked around the room at the assembled delegates. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a decision to make. Do we respond to this distress signal despite the risks? The response was immediate and unanimous. Every delegate from every species nodded or gestured agreement without hesitation. Of course we respond, Zexai said, speaking for the group. It's what we do, Captain Chen grinned. I was hoping you'd say that. I've already dispatched the Aurora and the Starbridge to begin rescue operations, but given the dangers involved, we're putting together a joint task force with representatives from every species. The more diverse the team, the better prepared we'll be for unknown situations, Dr. Veltara observed. And, added Groktar with satisfaction, if this unknown species proves hostile, they'll learn what the rest of us have discovered, that making enemies of the cooperation network is a very poor strategic decision. As the emergency response team assembled, Zexai reflected on how completely the galaxy had changed. 6 months ago, an unknown distress signal would have been met with suspicion, territorial concerns, and careful calculation of advantage. Now, 17 different species were working together to mount a rescue operation for someone they'd never met. In one of the most dangerous regions of space. The humans hadn't just rescued his ship that day in deep space. They had rescued the entire concept of what galactic civilization could become. Captain Chen, he said as the task force prepared to depart, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't answered our distress call? Captain Chen paused in her preparations and looked around at the bustling emergency center, filled with beings from across the galaxy working together toward a common goal. Every day, she admitted, but then I remember something my grandfather used to say. The universe is vast and full of wonders, but the greatest wonder is when people choose to help each other despite their differences. As the rescue fleet departed for unknown space, Zexai felt the same sense of hopeful anticipation that had carried him through his first encounter with humanity. Whatever they found out there, Whatever new challenges or opportunities awaited, they would face them together. And in a galaxy where cooperation had replaced competition as the dominant paradigm, there seemed to be no problem too complex to solve, no distance too great to cross, and no species too different to befriend. The rescue fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of what would later be known as the Nexus system, and immediately every sensor on every ship began registering readings that defied explanation. The space around them wasn't empty. It was filled with a complex network of crystalline structures that pulsed with energy and seemed to extend consciousness itself across the void. Captain Chen, reported Dr. Veltara from her station aboard the lead ship Harmony's Dawn. I'm reading massive artificial structures throughout this system. The technology level is beyond anything in our databases. Captain Sarah Chen, now commanding the Joint Rescue Fleet, studied the sensor data with growing amazement. The structures weren't ships or stations in any conventional sense. They were more like living cities that grew and changed in response to their environment, connected by streams of pure energy that carried information faster than light. And the distress signal? She asked. Coming from the largest structure, approximately 2 million kilometers ahead, reported Navigator Thexmore, whose hybrid navigation systems were proving invaluable in the strange environment. But Captain, I'm also detecting something else. The entire system appears to be dying. The truth of that statement became apparent as they moved closer to the source of the distress signal. The crystalline structures that should have been brilliant with energy were dimming, their complex geometries collapsing into simpler forms as whatever powered them failed. Entire sections of the vast network were going dark, and the streams of energy that connected them were fading like dying neural pathways. Incoming communication, announced Communications Specialist Williams. The message that came through was unlike anything they had encountered before. Not words or images, but pure concepts transmitted directly into their minds through technological means they couldn't begin to understand. Gratitude, hope, desperation, came the alien thoughts. Unknown yet familiar ones who answer calls across the void. We are the architects. Our great work fails. Soon we will be only memory. Ambassador Okafor, serving as the diplomatic representative of the Joint Fleet, responded carefully. Architects, we are representatives of the Galactic Cooperation Network. We received your distress signal and have come to offer assistance. What is the nature of your emergency? Astonishment, wonder, curiosity. Multiple species working as one. This is unprecedented in our records of younger civilizations. Our emergency. The heart of our network fails. Without it, all we have built across 10 million years will crumble. Our people will die with it. Dr. Veltara exchanged glances with her colleagues from multiple species working at adjacent stations. Captain, they're talking about technology that's been functioning for 10 million years. That's older than any known civilization in the galaxy. Commander Groktar, representing the Braxian contingent, leaned forward with interest. What kind of species builds something meant to last 10 million years? The answer came as another wave of transmitted concepts. We are gardeners of consciousness. Across the eons, we have nurtured the development of sapient life, guided the growth of civilizations, prevented extinctions, facilitated first contacts. The network is our tool for watching over and protecting the younger species as they grow. The implications hit the assembled rescue team like a physical blow. Every species present had legends of mysterious interventions that had saved their civilizations at crucial moments. The Corvanians spoke of the great guidance that had taught them spaceflight. The Braxians had stories of the quiet strength that had prevented their warrior culture from destroying itself. Even human history contained references to unexplained technological leaps that had accelerated their development. You've been watching over all of us, Captain Chen said with dawning understanding. Watching, guiding, protecting. Yes, but now our time ends. The heart fails, and we lack the knowledge to repair it. In nurturing others, we may have neglected to nurture ourselves. Ambassador Okafor felt the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. An ancient species that had guided galactic civilization for millions of years was dying, and they had called for help from the very species they had secretly protected. Architects, what would it take to repair the heart of your network? Unknown, impossible, hope despite futility. The heart requires a fusion of technologies and perspectives that we no longer possess. It was built when we were young and worked together as you do now. But we have grown too specialized, too isolated. We have forgotten how to truly collaborate. Dr. Veltara's antennae twitched with sudden excitement. Captain, that sounds like exactly the kind of problem the Cooperation Network specializes in solving. Tashandra's crystalline form resonated with agreement. If they need multiple perspectives and technologies working together, we can provide that. The Braxians have experience with ancient technologies, Groktar added. Our warrior archaeologists have studied ruins across the galaxy. The Sileth might be able to interface directly with their consciousness-based systems, suggested the telepathic. Delegate Captain Chen smiled with the expression that had become famous across the galaxy, the look of someone who had found an interesting problem to solve. Architects, the species you've guided, have learned to work together in ways that might surprise you. Would you be willing to let us try? Astonishment, hope, wonder beyond measure. The children we nurtured would help their nurturers? This is unprecedented. What followed was the most complex cooperative effort in galactic history. Teams of engineers, scientists, and specialists from 17 different species worked alongside the ancient architects to understand and repair technology that predated their civilizations. The Corvanians provided their expertise with quantum mechanics. The Braxians contributed their knowledge of ultra-durable materials. The Zephyrians offered their understanding of crystalline matrices. The Sileth served as living interfaces between different consciousness types, and the humans, as always, served as coordinators and facilitators, helping different approaches mesh together into unified solutions. Dr. Rodriguez, now elderly but still brilliant, worked alongside architect technicians whose consciousness existed in crystalline matrices older than his entire species. The fundamental problem, he explained to the joint technical team, is that the heart requires constant adjustment from multiple perspectives. It's not a machine you build and forget. It's more like a garden that needs tending. Which explains why it failed when the architects became too specialized, Dr. Veltara observed. They stopped seeing the whole system and focused only on their individual parts. The solution, when it came, was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to repair the ancient heart, they would build a new one, but not as a single massive device. The new heart would be a distributed network, with nodes maintained by each member species of the Cooperation Network. The architects would no longer have to bear the burden of protecting galactic civilization alone. It's perfect, breathed Tashandra as the first components of the new network came online. Each species contributes what they do best, and together we create something greater than any of us could build alone. As the new heart of the network activated, streams of energy began flowing again through the crystalline structures. But more than that, information began flowing. 10 million years of accumulated knowledge about nurturing civilizations, preventing conflicts and fostering cooperation, gratitude, joy, wonder beyond expression, transmitted the architects. You have not only saved us but transformed our purpose. No longer will we work in isolation, guiding from shadows. Now we can work together, openly as equals among equals. Captain Chen, now Admiral Chen and overall coordinator of the Galactic Cooperation Network, stood on the bridge of the Harmony's dawn and watched as species after species received their first direct communication from the architects, who had guided them for millennia. The galaxy was about to become a very different place. Admiral, Ambassador Okafor said with satisfaction, "Do you realize what we've accomplished here?" "We answered a distress call," Chen replied with her characteristic humility. "We did rather more than that," Zexhai observed with amusement. "We've just gained the partnership of the oldest and wisest species in the galaxy. We've transformed the secret guardians of civilization into open participants in it. As reports began coming in from across the galaxy, conflicts resolving through architect mediation, new technologies emerging from combined research, species making contact that had never known of each other's existence." Zexhai reflected on the chain of events that had started with a simple distress signal in deep space. His ship's emergency beacon had called for rescue and received it. But in the process, they had rescued far more than just a stranded research vessel. They had rescued the ancient guardians of the galaxy itself. And in doing so, they had revealed the true potential of cooperation over competition. The architects had spent 10 million years nurturing civilization from the shadows. Now, working openly with the species they had guided, they could build something even greater. A galaxy where every voice was heard, every species valued, and every problem faced together. And at the HFY,